My presentation will cover the following points about Heritage Houses Trust. One, what is Heritage Houses Trust and how it started, and a little bit about my personal background and some examples of our work. And finally, the next step for Heritage Houses Trust. So I would like to start explaining what we do and how the Heritage Houses Trust started. So Heritage Houses Trust is a general incorporated association founded in 2013. The founding members are professionals, including architects, architecture historians like myself, an art historian, real estate experts, and a lawyer. At the moment, we do mainly 3 activities. One is what we call owner coordination. By owner coordination, we mean counseling heritage houses owners about particular issue of their properties. For example, owners of heritage houses often want to sell their property without demolishing the building, obviously. But unfortunately, that is very difficult and challenging in present Japanese real estate market. So we help them to find a new owner who appreciate the value of the house and keep it in good condition. The second activity we do is event organization. So not only to look for an ideal new owner for the heritage houses, but also to provide opportunities for the general public to visit heritage houses which are not normally open because it's a private house. We organize events such as open houses, concerts, and lectures at the house. Also, we organize seminars, conferences, exhibitions to raise awareness about the importance of protecting those heritage houses at the risk of demolition. The third activity is house management. We support original and new owners of the heritage houses by providing property and building management service. For example, we help owners who would like to utilize the house by organizing events, introducing users or tenants. Also, we support owners to maintain the historical buildings in good condition by introducing experts. So there is a blank 4 square, and I will talk about that at the end of my presentation. So why and how we started Heritage Houses Trust. So in Japan, many historically, culturally, architecturally important modern houses of the 20th century had been and still are demolished. Why? In our experience, there are mainly 3 factors. 1, very heavy inheritance tax, so death duties. 2, change of lifestyle. 3, nature of post-war real estate market in Japan. So the first point, heavy inheritance tax. In Japan, inheritance tax is really high. The highest rate is now 55%, and until 2002, it was 70%. Not 17, 70. If you inherit old valuable house in a place where the land price is really high, and if you don't have enough cash to pay the tax, the only solution is to sell the house. The tax has to be paid within 10 months after your father or mother die. It is easier and faster to sell empty and smaller plot in the market than a big one with an old house. So to sell quickly, to pay the tax, many heritage houses have been demolished. The second point, change of lifestyle. Heritage houses tend to be big with a good size of garden and often does not meet today's requirements, such as safety regulations, including earthquake resistance standard. We have a lot of earthquake, or comfort standard, or cost efficiency. And our lifestyle has been modernized and westernized rapidly after the war. To maintain old house, as you very well know, in good condition and live comfortably, it requires knowledge, experience, time, patience, and financial backup. So some owners of the heritage houses cannot afford to sustain the building financially, or simply they want to move to a newer, smaller, more comfortable, and cost-efficient house. Many owners and real estate companies think it is impossible to find someone who appreciates such old buildings and purchase. So they demolish the house when they sell it without even trying to find the house a new owner. The third point, the nature of the post-war real estate market, and this is the most problematic part. The post-war Japanese real estate market relies mostly on newly built houses and flats. And the second-hand housing market is really undeveloped. Most of the heritage houses were built more than 40 years ago, and unfortunately, there is no market for valuable modern homes yet in Japan. Also, heritage houses tend to be big and often in a very good location, so the price of the property is high and takes longer time to sell. Because it is easier, faster, and more profitable for the developers to sell smaller plots or newly built houses in the market, many old big houses, including heritage houses, tends to be demolished. So when the owners need to sell their heritage houses because of tax or other reasons, there is very high risk of being demolished in the present Japanese real estate market. So the value of many property in Japan is largely based on how much the land is worth. So the house on it, much like a used car, begins to depreciate as soon as the first owner sets foot in the door. So when I came back to Japan after finishing master's course in Britain and started my own practice with my husband, I was so shocked to find that many important modern houses were vanishing in Japan. By the way, my husband is a Colombian, Latin American architect, and he could not believe how short the life of Japanese houses are, and therefore how much the townscape changes in a short time. But I didn't know what I could do to change the situation. In 2007, Ms. Sonoda, the owner of this famous Sonoda house, came to the local town planning NPO, of which I was a member, and asked for advice. Her husband, Takahiro Sonoda, was a famous pianist, but he passed away. And their two sons were both living in Germany because they were brought up in Germany. Ms. Sonoda was getting old and was hoping to move to a smaller apartment because the house was just too big for her alone. Sonoda House was designed by Junzo Yoshimura, one of the most important Japanese architects of the 20th century. The house was built in 1955. I'm sorry, it's written 1954, but actually it's 1955. And the house was known as one of the masterpieces of post-war more modern house. So these are some interior photos of the house. The total floor area of the house was originally 77 square meters, so it's a very small house. and they put 2 grand pianos because they were musicians. And it fits. Later, the house was extended and total floor area became 300 square meters. Ms. Sonoda understood that the house has some historical importance, and of course, she didn't want to demolish the house she loved. And she wanted to sell the house to someone who understood the value and keep the house in good condition. But most of the professionals she consulted with, such as bankers, real estate agents, tax and law experts, said she needed to demolish the house and sell as plots. We visited the house immediately, and all the members thought we definitely need to save the house from demolition, including the extended part designed by Yoshimura's former staff. So we quickly gathered a group of professionals who shared this common goal and organized a series of musical concerts, architectural expert talks, and open house events in order to raise awareness of this critical situation and look for a new owner. So these are the photos of the events. So before explaining how Heritage Houses Trust started and what happened to that Sonoda house in the end, I would like to introduce a little bit about myself and how I became one of the founding members of Heritage Houses Trust. I studied architecture design and history in Japan and Britain, and I really enjoyed studying history of modern houses. While I was studying in the postgraduate courses, I also worked as a freelance architecture writer. So this is one of the architectural magazines I was involved, called SD, Space and Design. And this issue was focusing on Danish modern house in the 50s. And I was so fascinated to visit beautiful Danish houses, modern houses. Now it's part of your collection, including houses designed by Jacobsen, Kjærholm, Utzen, and Gunnlaugsen. This is another magazine I was a co-editor with Ken Oshima, architecture historian, and now a professor at Washington University. This A+U special issue titled Visions of the Real is focusing on modern houses in the 20th century. There were several houses I think you will visit in a tour later on. This A+, it was another great experience for me to visit iconic modern houses in the world. I was very, very fortunate being paid and visit all these beautiful houses. While I was studying and working as an architectural writer and a lecturer, I established my own company with my husband. We run a contemporary housing organization called Community Housing. And in 2007, the same year I got involved with Sonoda House preservation, I encountered with another modern masterpiece which needed to be protected, the new Maekawa house. It was built in 1974 by Kunio Maekawa for himself and his wife. Kunio Maekawa is one of the most important Japanese architects of the 20th century. And he was the first Japanese to work at Le Corbusier's office in France in 1928. And by the way, old Maekawa house, built in 1942, was relocated to Edo Tokyo Open Air Architecture Museum and open to the public. And I think Old Maekawa House is the only architect's house in the map of iconic houses network webpage, I think. And in 2007, I received a telephone call from my friend who was an architectural historian and a former staff of Maekawa's office. He told me that Maekawa's family sold the house to a developer and was under a high risk of demolition. Immediately, I went to see the house. And as I showed you previously, I had a chance to see many iconic modern houses of the 20th century in the world. And I thought this new Maekawa house could have been one of the choices for the A+U modern house issue. And I was so shocked to learn that even such an important and valuable house could be demolished so easily, and there was no legal framework to protect it. In case of new Maekawa house, we didn't have time to gather professionals or organize events. So I quickly had to look for someone who could purchase the house from the developer and safeguard the building. Fortunately, I could find a suitable investor on time who understand the situation and agreed to own the house for a while. It was possible partly because the house was running as a rental property already at that time, therefore generating enough income to pay the cost of renovation and some profit. And since then, my company manages the property, and we are very fortunate to have a very good expat, the foreign business people in Japan, as a tenants. And actually, the reason why we could save this house was because at that time, when my Kawa family sold the house to a developer, there was an American family living in this house. And they could detect that, okay, this developer is going to demolish the house, because they were trying to kick out this American family, right? But of course, they didn't want to leave the house because they knew what is going to happen if they do. So what they did was they wrote a lot of letters to many institutions like Japan Institute of Architects, any kinds of architectural institutions, to help them to protect the house. But surprisingly or amazing, they didn't do anything. They did not answer to this American family. After several months, this historian who called me got that fax, but just by chance, and quickly called me. I don't know why me, but he called me, and I had to do something about it. But if it wasn't that American family, I think this house could have been demolished already. So fortunately or sadly, I find foreigners in Japan appreciate these historical buildings much more than Japanese people. So the new Maekawa house never had any problem finding good tenants. At the moment, we have an Australian lawyer lives in this house, and he very kindly supports Heritage Houses Trust activity. He's a lawyer, so he helped us a lot with his skill voluntarily. And he even paid himself to recover this house like original. So he goes to the storage and found the original light fittings and said, "Isn't this original?" So we put it back to the original place. It's amazing. We have a very good tenants, and they really love the house. Oh, sorry. Okay. So one of the photo is the seminar we had, and also this house is covered a lot by magazine and newspaper, and that's the Australian lawyer in the photo. So now I would like to go back to Sonoda House and how Heritage Houses Trust had started. The awareness raising events at the Sonoda House continued for 4 years. The concerts and architectural expert talks were well regarded, but still we could not achieve our goal, finding the house an ideal new owner. So I suggested to the members of Sonoda House Preservation Group to organize an exhibition. At that time, I was involved with preservation of 3 heritage houses. So in this exhibition, we covered 1 Sonoda house, 2 New Maekawa house, 3 another house called Curator house, which was in my neighborhood, designed by Isoya Yoshida, another important and great architect of the 20th century. And the house was built in 1955. So this is the photo of exhibition held at I have a small gallery at that time, so we did it at the gallery in 2012. We exhibited photos, drawings, and models of the houses and organized open house and talk events. At the point of exhibition, the point of the exhibition was to convey the message that all three houses are looking for a new owner. In other words, they are on sale. Fortunately, several media, such as magazines and Japanese and English newspaper, covered the exhibition. And because of this media coverage, we had a lot of visitors to the exhibition, and a family in Osaka who read Nikkei newspaper article, the one on the right, contacted us and decided to purchase Sonoda House. So this is the photo of a passing ceremony from the original owner to the new owner. Mr. Ito is on the right. And Mr. Ito on the right was a big fan of Yoshimura's architecture. And actually, he never thought he could own original Yoshimura design house until he read the article on our exhibition. So Ito family loves the house very much and takes very good care of it. And also, they very kindly opened the house for architectural visit and music concerts by appointment. Now, the house is registered as a tangible cultural heritage. And Miss Sonoda on the left was very happy to pass the house to the new owner. It was possible because Miss Sonoda very patiently waited for 4 years and very kindly and happily supported all the events we organized at the house. From this experience, we realized that we need to establish some organization to continue these activities, not just for one house, but for many other important houses at the risk of demolition. Unfortunately, Curator House was demolished after the exhibition because the family couldn't wait. And the new Maekawa House continues to seek for an ideal new owner. So I would like to show some of the example of our work. This is a villa built in 1928 in Hayama, Kanagawa Prefecture. Kanagawa Prefecture is next to Tokyo. It was designed by Arata Endo, the most accomplished pupil of Frank Lloyd Wright during his stay in Japan. The Kachi Villa was used by 3 generations of the original owner's family, but the 3rd generation, the granddaughters, decided to sell. Fortunately, a person who participated one of our exhibition events was a friend of Kachi Villa owner, and she contacted us in order to find a new owner who understands the value of the house. Learning from our previous experience, we organized several exhibitions and open house events at the house. Many people visited through those events, much more than we expected. Another example, which is more recent, rebuilt, and smaller scale, is this Daita Townhouse. This house was designed by Kazunari Sakamoto and built in 1976. In the case of Daita Townhouse, the architect himself contacted us and asked for help. The house was already on sale in the real estate market as a land. That means as soon as it is sold, most probably the house is going to be demolished. So we did not have much time. So we quickly organized open house event with a lecture by the architect. Again, through a contact we got during our previous exhibition, A young family purchased the property, and the original architect took care of the renovation. Now, a Norwegian artist and a Japanese wife with a little boy lives there very happily. There are some photos of houses we have worked and have been working on at the moment. For more details, please check our webpage. I'm sorry, it's only very little part is translated in English, but you can check the photos and stuff. We have dealt with 12 cases and succeeded in finding new owners for 6 houses. We are now working on 4 houses, including iconic Kameki Tsuchiura's own house, built in 1935, and Yukigaya House, designed by Yoshio Taniguchi, built in 1975. So this is a house designed by Yoshio Taniguchi. And this is the very iconic modern house built in 1935, Kameki Tsuchiura's house. So very briefly, this is what we do to save important Japanese modern houses from demolition and passing them to the next generation. So after 5 years of activity, although we succeeded in finding new owners for 6 houses, we have been realizing that the initial model has some limitation and needs to seek next step forward. So adding to these 3 activities, we feel needs to own heritage houses ourselves. In some cases, such as the owner wishes to donate the house itself, or cases which we cannot find suitable new owners in time. So ownership by Heritage Houses Trust is the 4th activities we are going to add in the near future. So at present, Heritage Houses Trust is a general incorporated association, but we are now trying to become public interest incorporated association in order to receive funding through philanthropic activities, including receiving heritage houses themselves from owners by donations. However, in Japan, public interest incorporated association has its own limitation. So to continue and develop our present activities, which cannot be done as public association, we are planning to establish another organization. But maybe we rethink about that after hearing your presentation. So if you have good idea, please let us know. But first, to move on to the next step, we need to learn a lot about fundraising, which we did in the morning, and donation and philanthropic investment. I hope I can learn a lot from you while we are in this conference. And I hope my presentation helps you to understand the situation of Japanese iconic houses and give some ideas for alternatives to the house museum models. Thank you for listening.